So, John Morant is coming back, and this is exciting. John Morant, the superstar of the Grizzlies, the player who showed a lethal weapon in IG Live, and a player which overall has been the pillar of success for his team this season, is coming back soon. He's coming back in one game, right? And this is in their game, which the Grizzlies have currently, right? That where they're gonna go and they're gonna face off against the Pelicans. In this matchup, we're gonna go and we're gonna see, the Grizzlies get at it with John Morant if he comes back directly. Obviously, this is amazing because Ja is a superstar of the league, one of the greatest players. The Grizzlies are trash, and seeing everything get resolved is going to be very good again. The only thing that I want to talk about is how will this impact the Memphis Grizzlies? This season, Desmond Bane has had the full green light to do whatever he wants. Whatever he wants. His points went up by 4. His assists went up by 1. His steals went up. His blocks went up. Even his offensive rebounding went up. Meanwhile, having slightly worse efficiency than last year. And obviously, when you give someone this like superstar treatment, or at least this like, yo, it's your team, you go and do whatever you want with it. It gives people a certain feeling of like, oh, I really like this because I can have my own way whenever I want. But with the Ja returning, there is something to be said about this team's dynamic and the way that they're looking at each other and how favorably they want to see each other changing, Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson Jr., and John Morant are the stars of this team. That's very obvious. And they're the guys who are entrusted to carry this franchise forward, right? Ja being the main superstar, Desmond being the second option, and then you have Jaren Jackson being the third. But what happens when there's like trouble in paradise? Like what happens when like Ja comes back? Desmond Bane doesn't want to be there, doesn't want to give up his position anymore, and now that causes a battle. And this is really what I've been saying for the longest, where it's like, yes, we could see, people have the skills and people be able to be the first man on a team. But if you give someone that opportunity of being the best player, and then you're gonna go and take it away from them after 25 games of being that, is it gonna hurt with team morality? Another guy which also got a really increased role was Jaren Jackson Jr. And honestly, he's been struggling. Without Ja, he has been a shell of himself. He can score more, he can assist more, but he's not rebounding the same. He's not blocking the same way. And honestly, I think that's because of Ja and his presence on the floor. So with one star, Desmond Bane, is probably going to be some adjusting there, because Desmond Bane has completely taken over the role of the superstar. And even if they're not winning a lot, he has been able to, be that front man for the Grizzlies. For a guy like Jaren Jack, he's probably going to go and try to step back as much as possible because he's had a pretty rough season without Ja being there, to help him out. So the Grizzlies have 2 games left, which they have to play, right? And these games are all predicated basically on when is Ja and versus who is Ja coming back for, right? Like, Ja is going to come back, and he's immediately going to face the Oklahoma City Thunder. He's not going to face, but he's going to face the New Orleans Pelicans, the Indiana Pacers, the Hawks, the Pelicans again, the Denver Nuggets, the Clippers, the Kings, the Spurs. So he has a pretty talented, next few games. And honestly, when we look at that, we have to look at Ja and be like, yo, you have to be ready to come out the gate and carry your team. Because your team right now is going to miss the playoffs. You're going to tank. You are suspended. But if you can go and make something happen and come back and be the player who you were before, honestly, then that would be very good for the flow of your team and for the league, right? When we see players like Ja and these types of suspensions, all that we can say is like, yo, why do these things happen? Like, I gone on IG Live, it shouldn't be anyone's problem if we're being 100, especially if, like, you're a multi-million-dollar NBA player, and which, honestly, so the biggest problem with this team is going to be getting back. We see a lot of stars, we see a lot of players and the way that they affect their team. And it's like, think about, like, what about if you take that star away for 25 games? Imagine taking Shea out of OKC for 25, Jokic out of Denver for 25, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, like LeBron out of LA for 25. Most of these teams would have great losses, and they would probably not be as good or half as good as they are. The only teams which I could imagine being even half as good would be, like the Celtics, which I still think could have something of essence without Jason Tatum, and maybe the Heat could sneak a few wins in because of the way that they play and their crazy mentality. Yes, I'm a Heat fan, but we are kind of crazy. And honestly, when we look at that situation, that propels us to say that, damn, like, wow, that's very important. Because imagine just taking Shea of OKC, another great point guard, scorer, which affects his team in every way. That team is not putting up nearly as many points. In crunch time, they're much worse. And they wouldn't be able to have any autonomy offensively, And honestly, when we look at a guy like Shea Gilgeous-Alexander and what he's done for his team, and when we look at a guy like John Morant, they're pretty similar, two young point guards who were trusted because of their breakout seasons, and now they've become some of the best players in the league, right? And Ja, like, I hope it's a smooth transition, because I hope it's a smooth transition when Ja comes back, because Ja's going to come back to a team which is disgruntled, lost a lot of games, has a really down morale, and has to go and rebuild all of these elements just so that his team has a chance of winning. Honestly, I hope that Ja can be the bigger leader, and I hope that he can pull through with all of this, because this is the task that not many people have to go through in this sense. And honestly, if we're being 1,000% honest, we have to consider that Ja is going to have to rebuild the Grizzlies from the ground up, reestablish their roles, right? Make sure to be able to work without Steven Adams as a player because he's injured for the entire season. And meanwhile, all of this, being able to keep your head up and be able to play well at the same time. Ja is under some immense expectations, and I hope that he can manage them accordingly. He's been tough throughout his whole career, and now with this situation, I think this will just be a learning point for him to be like, yo, please, let's make sure that we can have you for the future of our franchise, and make sure that we can make the playoffs this year as the Grizzlies. Honestly, I don't know if they will because of the West and how good it's been, but I hope that the Grizzlies do good this season as they're a great team and Ja's a great player. Yeah, I think that's all. I just hope that Ja actually learned something from being out 25 games, that he doesn't do this type of stuff again, and that no NBA superstar is doing that type of stuff flashing guns on IG Live. I think that's kind of crazy. But yeah, have a good one. Peace.